And it was one of those things where like genuinely like I time traveled. Hey everyone, it's Sunny. Sorry, the reason that my mirror is on like a literal timeout right now is because the time of day that it is right now, light comes through and it reflects like really not nicely. She's gonna stand in the corner and think about what you did. Can we talk about the only revenge song to ever exist?
Think about what you did.
I had him right there where I wanted it. There is nothing I do better than revenge.
So excited for this video because for some reason every single thing ever piles up onto this 1 month and I get into like massive reading slump simply because I literally have no time to read. So if anyone else in the same boat as me and you are the TikTok sound that's like, fun fact about me is that I've never been relaxed ever, then this video is for you because today I'm gonna be talking about every single book in my life where I've read a book in one sitting. So I have kind of a lot of books here. I tried to think as far back as I could. Let's just get started because the first one is honestly the most iconic thing and such a throwback. Shatter Me by Tahira Mafi. I'm on the boat of the fact that you have to read this book in one sitting. Actually, it's kind of a lot. Let me tell you the story behind this book. Do you guys remember the good old days? Your family would just go to like a bookstore, spend the entire day there in order to read brand new books and not buy anything, but literally just read entire books for that day that you're in the store. This was that book. I have such a vivid memory of me and my entire family going into Chapters, which is like a massive bookstore in Canada. I don't know if it exists outside of Canada because I've never been to a Barnes & Noble in my entire life. Chapters, Indigo, and maybe but Coles are kind of like a fictional creature. I like haven't really seen Coles outside of like malls, but Shatter Me was one of the books that I read in one sitting on one of those days where we spent the entire day at just like a bookstore. I remember reading it and literally like hours and hours had passed. I just sat there and I just read the entire thing cover to cover, and it was one of those things where like genuinely like I time traveled. Like this series is honestly probably one of the most addicting series I've ever read. YA dystopian romance to conquer all YA dystopian romances. Like it's been ages, so let me try to remember. Follow a girl named Juliet and she's been like held captive, I think like by the government or some kind of organization as like their secret weapon. She has the ability to like kill people by touching their skin. So obviously she's really dangerous, but she's just like this random girl and she's like, I didn't ask for this. The way that it's written too, it's like very like, it's just very angsty and stuff. Like it's all from Juliet's point of view. You see her like think stuff and then it's like crossed out and then she thinks something else underneath it, like, you know what I mean? And the story kicks off when I feel like he might have been the guard. Adam, that's the origin story for why I like the name Adam. Adam is our male lead in the first book. He's the only one that she for some reason doesn't hurt when she touches him. So obviously those two fall in love and then we are introduced to like a second male lead. He actually starts out as the antagonist and then it turns into like a love triangle and then turns into like not a love triangle. Like think Vampire Diaries. It's very much giving me, you know, you're obsessed with me. And I feel like the Warner Juliet love story was like all of our villain origin stories. It is so addicting. I can't help but read that whole thing in one series. Okay, the next book that I read in one sitting and the book that I think is so underrated. The book is called Midnight City by J. Barton Mitchell. This book cured a reading slump that I was in like at the start of high school. So random. I literally remember going to my friend's house, randomly saw this book on her bookshelf and I was like, oh, like what book is that? Oh, like it's just this random book. It's actually pretty good. And I was like, oh, and I went home and I got it and I read the entire thing like all at once. This one is another dystopia slash sci-fi like post-apocalyptic. We have two main characters, Holt and Mia. Mia is someone who can like tinker with these objects called artifacts. It's kind of like a science, so you can kind of like combine them in order to like build devices. And then Holt is a bounty hunter and he's trying to bounty hunt Mia, so it's like enemies to lovers, but then they, do you know like the reluctant co-parents trope that I love so much? I talked about in my criminally underrated book tropes video. It's like that. They come across this random girl who was in a space wreck named Zoe. We've been conquered by like this alien race. The older that you get, the more the tone bothers you. So when you become an adult, like past age 20 or something like that, you pretty much succumb to the tone. You become brainwashed like to the alien race. So the only hope are like the young people. Mia is like just turning into adult, so she is like scared because she slowly like the tone is becoming more and more in her head. It's literally a tone, it's like a buzzing kind. And then Holt is one of the rare few who are immune. So then those two meet. I just remember loving Holt and Mia's relationship. Oh my gosh, their relationship development is honestly so good. Kind of a little bit grumpy sunshine because Mia is really funny. She's kind of even girl boss. She likes to joke around a lot and then Holt gets like frustrated a lot, but then he has a soft side only when Mia is like in an episode where she's like really having trouble with the tone, and it's just so cute to see him have a soft spot like only for her. I love this book. I read it in one sitting. It honestly cured my book slump for that one night. This is like kind of in chronological order, so the next book I'm gonna talk about is Six of Crows. Once again, this is a book that briefly took me out of my reading slump and really spurred spurred like a passion for reading that I had lost in high school just because I was so brain dead in high school. I really vividly remember reading this book on my iPad, starting it after school one day, like early in the evening, 4 p.m.ish, and then staying up until like 2-3 a.m. just finish it. Keep in mind that since I lived kind of far away from my school and I had to get myself to school, sleep was not abundant. I really could not put down Six of Crows, and I really just sacrificed that much sleep. But I'm not one to sacrifice sleep. I really sacrificed sleep because this book was so freaking good. I don't know why I vividly remember it, checking the time, it being 1 a.m. and being like, and then we just continuing to read the book. I couldn't put it down. You guys know Six of Crows is one of my favorite books of all time, and it definitely has such a special place in my heart because I fully think that it kind of like was a book that re-spurred my love of reading, and look at where we are now. I just loved it so much. It was such a revival for me. It's a companion duology to the original Shadow and Bone Grishaverse books, but personally I don't think that you need to read the trilogy. I think that you shouldn't because the trilogy in my opinion is not the best, so if it's gonna deter you from reading the duology, just don't read the trilogy. I didn't read the trilogy before reading the duology, and I loved Six of Crows, and it basically is like criminal activity, grunge city, and then we follow 6 characters who are all in a gang together trying to pull off a heist, and it's like super character driven. Everyone has their own POV, and throughout their POVs you get flashbacks to like their backstories. Some of them already know each other, some of them are meeting for the first time. You get to see flashbacks to like stories from before the book even started. Oh my gosh, it's just so good. The crows, like the 6 crows, like everybody just loves them so much, and it's like the best found family. The banter is so good. The relationship and couples are so god tier. There's like friends to lovers, like I hate everybody but you, enemies to lovers, second chance romance, fourth proximity, one bed trope, grumpy sunshine, like literally everything that you want. I just love this book so much, and I can't stop singing praises about it. I could literally go on forever, but you guys already know how much I love this book. But now you guys know the origin story behind why. I literally read it in one sitting because I have zero self-control. Oh, I just love this book. Okay, the next book that I read in one sitting is I'm Still Here by Austen Channing Brown. The reason that I read this in one sitting is because it's really short. It's a memoir that I listened to on audio. Audiobook is like 3 hours long. I don't know how long the book is, but the audiobook is literally 3 hours. So if you just have 3 hours like where you're doing literally nothing, just listen to this memoir because it's narrated by the author and her experiences and her reflections as a Black woman living in America, but she's also a mother. It just felt very personal, and I bawled like a baby at the end of it too. It's just so touching. I think especially her responsibilities as a mother, all of the complexities that come with that, it's just like touching. Like it's so well written and it's so emotional, and it really packs a punch. Okay, next, this is also should be no surprise, People We Meet on Vacation. I actually wish that I had vlogged reading this because I was on booktube time. I was literally a baby. I literally just started, but and I wish that I had vlogged it because I think that would have been so fun, but it also would have been the shortest vlog ever because I would have just been reading for like 7 hours straight. People Being on Vacation by Emily Henry is obviously one of my favorite books of all time, and this book was like the gateway for me into adult romance. I wasn't really that interested, but this book like really changed the game for me. It's like the best friends to lovers. It's so good. Follows 2 characters named Poppy and Alex, and they met in their freshman year of college and they've been friends ever since, and it literally takes place over the course of like decades. What is it, like 10, 11, 12 years? Something crazy like that. It's past, present. Every other chapter followed them on a vacation that they would take together every year that they had been friends. But then when you go into the present, you know that something happened between the two of them in their relationship, that they're not even on speaking terms anymore, and so everything is building up to that vacation 2 years ago where you're like, what the heck happened on this vacation? And you're seeing them try to go on one last like reconcile like vacation together to a wedding. Of course, no romance book would ever be complete without a road trip to a wedding, and this book is so addicting to read. I don't know what it is about it. Maybe it's because it flips from like past to present, and that is always just like such a good pacer. But also I think like Poppy and Alex, like their character dynamic was just so fun to read. It's not like grumpy sunshine, but it's like sunshine and then like reserved. I love seeing like the development from them being friends, because at first like when you see them, like I hate when friends to lovers is just like crushes to lovers, like it's not actually friends to lovers, but this was actually friends to lovers. Like when they first meet, there were like no romantic feelings at all or like any attraction there romantically whatsoever. It's very clear that they're like very platonic from the very beginning, and then it's only through like many years looking at that relationship do you see like more of the romantic feelings coming, but it wasn't there at the start. You know what I mean? Like that's what makes it so satisfying. Present chapters, like when they're on like that road trip and like the angst, the tension that's between them, I can't. The tension just like builds so much, and then it cuts to like the past. It just goes back and forth, and the pacing is so good. Okay, the next book that I pretty much read in one sitting, I actually vlogged it. I literally read it in a day, which is The Hating Game by Sally Thorne. Then right after that, I watched the movie, so I really had my fill. I really ate that day. But I bought into the hype because the movie was coming out. I saw Austin Stoll's face, and the rest is history. I actually can't pinpoint exactly what it is. Whenever I wasn't reading this book, I was like, oh, like I was actually physically hurting because I needed to read it. I had an exam the next day, I'm pretty sure. If you don't know, this is a workplace enemies to lovers relationship between two people named Josh and Lucy, and you just follow all the angst and all the banter and like, oh my gosh, should I rewatch the movie right now? That scene sequence when Lucy is sick and Josh is taking care of her truly lives in my mind. Absolutely rent-free. It's actually the landlord. I just love Lucy Hale and Austin Stoll. I think that they did such a good job in the movie. Their chemistry was so good, but I had such an easy time visualizing it in the book, and I was so invested in Josh and Lucy's relationship. I'm not gonna talk about this anymore, but you can go watch my video if you want. Okay, the next book that I read entirely in one sitting. I thought I had it here, but actually I don't because I annotated it and then gave it to my friend to read. It's Fiona and Jane. I think the author is Jean Chen Ho. I think I just had like a free evening or something. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna spend this evening reading. What should I read? I looked over to my stack of books over there, and then I saw the beautiful cover. 2 Asian girls on the cover, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm an Asian girl. And then I read the entire thing. It's like pretty short, and I think it's kind of like an anthology. It's kind of like short stories or like vignettes kind of. These 2 girls named Fiona and Jane, they've been friends like since childhood, and you literally follow them from their like teens, like early teens, all the way till like their 40s, and it like jumps through time, so sometimes it's like hard to catch a grip on like where you are and whose mind you're in because it switches POVs from their lives, and their lives are actually quite separate. Just following these 2 Taiwanese American girls. I don't have the book with me, but I literally remember like starting to read this and then knowing the moment of no return thing. I literally wrote like, oh, what did I write? I literally wrote something like, oh, there's no going back, or like, you know what I mean? Like the first chapter literally destroyed me. I sat there and I was like, oh dear God, I'm gonna spend the entire day just sitting in this chair until I finish this book. There's no other way. And it was just one like emotional truck hitting me like one after another in these chapters. I was actually like battered and bruised by the end of reading this book. I can't even explain it. Like you actually don't have any breathing room. Last book is Verity by Colleen Hoover, one that I also vlogged. Verity is Colleen Hoover's only like thriller book because she's a romance author. I had to read it in one sitting because it's honestly the scariest book I've ever read. Like I'm actually the biggest scaredy cat. I literally was hyperventilating I was reading that book. Oh my god. Follow this woman. I forget what her name is. What was her name? Oh, her name was Lowen? No, it wasn't. Okay, the main character, she's a woman named Lowen. She's on like that struggling artist train. She's an author. She ends up getting hired by a man named Jeremy, and his wife is Verity. And Verity is a very, very famous like horror author, like Stephen King level famous horror author. She is unable to finish the series that she started, and so they're hiring Lowen to be like her replacement author, and that's kind of like all Lowen is told. She ends up going to Jeremy and Verity's lake house in order to look at Verity's office and like just collect her materials, and then try to get everything in order to finish off her series. She discovers this manuscript, and it's actually a manuscript of Verity's life, like it's autobiography that Verity was writing in secret. It's alternating chapters between like what's happening in present day with Lowen, and then we also get chapters of the actual manuscript that Lowen is reading. It's like the scariest thing ever. Oh my, I can't even explain it. It's like so disturbing. Every single chapter you read, like you think that it can't get any worse, and it does. It's so scary. It's actually so scary. Verity is so scary. I'm like always scared that I'm gonna look back and I'm gonna like... Anyway, you follow Lowen and Jeremy's relationship also begin to develop. That just also adds to the hot mess of it all. That is all of the book that I can remember reading in pretty much one sitting. Yeah, please let me know what books you guys have read in one sitting in your life. I feel like they're actually built different. But other than that, that's gonna be all from me. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to subscribe down below if you haven't already, and push the notification bell to be notified every single time that I make an upload. Follow me on Instagram at sunnykimchannel. Bye!
You're so pretty.